Hey everybody, and welcome to Stockability. This is stock market breaking news alerts. This is going to be a quick video about how Trump basically is delaying the stimulus bill until after elections, but apparently not. And I'm going to tell you guys in this video just what I mean. So make sure to like this video, comment below your own input on what's going on, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to hop right into it here. That I'm sure at this point, for anybody that does day trading, swing trading, so on and so forth, essentially he announced through Twitter that he's going to essentially end this whole, stimulus bill back and forth. Caused a lot of drama, caused quite a hefty dip right before close in the market hours. I think this was around 2:40, 2:50 in the afternoon. We've seen a little bit of a dump, but then it kind of shook a little bit back up, but then it continued back down again into the end of the day. A lot of drama going back and forth through a lot of different media outlets saying that this is bearish, this is bullish to some degree, because he's trying to push this kind of deal out into, getting something going on. And eventually it led to kind of a dead end where you got Pelosi there and Munchie basically trying to work out a deal, but essentially no progress was really being made. So he caused a little bit of a drama there, and a lot of people were a little confused as to what's really going on. Uh, According to this quote here from CNBC, waiting until after election to reach an agreement on the next COVID-19 relief package is a huge mistake, said GOP Senator Susan Collins, who faces a tougher election battle in Maine. I've already been in touch with the Secretary of the Treasury, one of the chief negotiators, and with several of my Senate colleagues. Blah, blah, blah. The point being is that ultimately this whole thing ended up more being like the art of the deal. If you guys are familiar with his book and all that kind of stuff, it's just part of a negotiating tactic. It's a lot of drama for a lot of nothing. Now, he said, stimulus bill delayed, voting and all that kind of stuff until after elections. But then on his Twitter, he started, as this website puts it, talking with himself on Twitter after the stimulus talks mentioned. Just literally hours later, he's tweeting things basically that we need a stimulus bill. Am if I am sending a standalone bill for stimulus checks, or if I'm doing this for airlines. But here's the exact quotes for you guys. I'll show it on Twitter to confirm that these are verified tweets that he made literally hours after making the statement of the delayed stimulus bill, showing more of a negotiation tactic than an actual delay on that. Here's the direct one. The House and Senate should immediately approve $25 billion for airline payroll support and $135 billion for paycheck protection program for small business. Both of these will be fully paid with the unused funds from the CARES Act. Have this money. I will sign now, he said. And then in another one, he says, from a standalone bill for the stimulus check. They will go out to our great people immediately. I'm ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy? He said. And then, he tagged Nancy and he tagged all these people. It's an interesting reality that we live in nowadays with Twitter, and the fact that Trump is literally tweeting and, all these big impacts just from a tweet of, of all things. And like, this is his official Twitter account, literally right on there. You can see that tweet there. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see some of the other tweets that he made recently. A lot of different tweets going back and forth, a lot of pinging here and there, and, a lot of different stuff back and forth. And he just, a lot of drama. But, that's Twitter. And since, as you can see, at the point of which he tweeted, essentially we took a drop from hitting near 342 to a big drop. Ironically, 342 is kind of a technical rejection area. It's kind of a resistance we've been trying to break for the past weeks, months. In the past, 340 was resistance. Then it kind of popped a bit above that, and it started hitting some more turbulence yet again. And then, of course, now we're going with the QQQ, same thing. Tech hit the same kind of resistance, running a very similar pattern. Both were down in the after hours. You know, defense, airlines, things like that also took a very similar hit. And then, of course, we're getting these tweets in the after hours after the main markets are closed and the futures aren't really reacting to this. It's more like a consolidation. We have basically a slight upward there with a 3353, which let me go all the way back here to show you guys here just in a second. I mean, futures market's really not up at the 335.23 equivalent. That's barely tapping into around what the end of the day ended up like before it dipped a little bit more in the after hours. A lot of this seems like it was more fundamental nonsense. The bill was not even passed yet, so seeing these drops seems rather silly. I'm projecting that we're probably going to literally gap up and go above this into the end of the week. There was some interesting sweeps that came in through the Trade UI platform. You could see that in the description below if you want to check it out. But essentially, it seemed to imply that IWM Russell Index was essentially closing out of their sweeps for the puts that they had entered, and then you had a lot of SPY calls that were bought for basically the end of the week at 340. And 340 from where it sits now. Let me go just past it. Let me zoom back over there. That we're at 335 ish, and the sweeps came in for 340. The thing is that the sweeps came in around the 4 to 415 range, so this wasn't like they were adding to them up here at the top. They were adding at literally almost the very bottom of the day when they came in. So we're looking at someone investing or risking $1.4 million basically for a same week expiration that comes in on Friday of all days. So that is something to consider, that someone's putting a rather significant amount of monies. And if you factoring in the cost of the exercise, so if they were to even hit this and then exercise on top of that, that might be the momentum that needs to carry it up a little bit higher here. We also very recently had a bonds market shuffle kind of going on, a lot of debt buying, all this kind of fun stuff. Cover that in another video. I'm not going to cover it too much in this one, but the short answer is that Powell was kind of printing money just yesterday when we had that big massive rally. And of course, ironically, the rally ended up only dumping back to where we were before, ultimately not really breaking any core supports, not really breaking anything really. It seemed basically after the bond market settled down, it gave back all of that pop, but it never really went below that. And even in the futures market, it's not really cracking. So something to consider is that we had that pump essentially from that bond market movement, and then that all was given back literally 24 hours later. Really hasn't broken above this technical support. So was it really Trump that caused this dip? He might have been part of that narrative that they wanted to imply that it was. And with the delay and everything, fundamentally, that's, kind of bearish, but at the same time, he never really said, hey, we're going to simply cancel it. And then with the tweets in the after hours here, let me go all the way back to his exact wording here with immediately approve this, immediately approve that. Standalone bills that he really emphasizes that these are standalone bills, these are not stimulus bills. So these are things that essentially Pelosi and Munchie and, Trump all kind of already agreed to. Democrats and Republicans were both on the side of approving airline funding and approving the stimulus checks for individuals. So these are not things that they were really contesting. So essentially, they don't really have any excuse not to pass these as standalone bills. These are big concerns, basically, for all this other stuff going on. And as he can basically mentions here that there's unused funds left from the CARES Act that are already passed that can be utilized for the airlines and can be utilized for the stimulus bill, the stimulus check bill, if it's just separate by itself. There's other executive orders he can pass to push these through. He said it himself in a Twitter post not too long ago. What extent and what power he has and what authority in that regard doesn't really matter because it's more about the guidance that they look for in the market nowadays. These tweets basically are probably going to be reacted to and basically say, well, I guess the stimulus bill is back on, in a sense. So we'll see how that works out and plays out into the market coming up here into the rest of the week. My guess is we're going to see a retest above 340. It's going to act like none of this drop ever happened. And my guess is we're going to see a little bit carried over more into a higher push. Although, tech and everything's down, a lot of other sectors haven't really rebounded yet. Now, this is a 3x leverage, so it's a bad example, but, it's still relatively down from where it could be. I mean, $20 to $30 range per share, not too unrealistic. And this is more of a representation of RTX limit and Boeing. So Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon, these kind of companies all in one ticker, just to give you an example. Same thing for airlines. Airlines are still relatively down comparatively to where they were. A $20 to $25 bounce back up is not too unrealistic, especially if they end up getting this kind of funding. And this isn't a 3x leverage or anything like that, so this can easily obtain back to its all-time highs here. I don't know if it's necessarily going to reach it, this year. I doubt it. But my guess is at least the 20s again. It already tried to test that earlier in the year from its last pass. So now it's trending a little bit stronger, and we should see a boost back up to the $20 to $25 range again. I feel it'll kind of settle on that for the rest of the year, but we'll see. Leave in the comments below your own input on what you think about all this, what you think this was, whether it was, a ploy all along, or whether, Trump had this plan in his mind from the start. He did this kind of with the trade war deal thing where it's off and then it's on again and then it's off again. But we'll see how this progresses. And I'll see you guys later on. Have a nice day and see you later, guys.